bones after a couple of weeks, and they realized that the EDTA wasn't going to do it. And they said, they let me know, and they said, okay, we got something here that dissolves stone. Stone. It's called Tween 20, and that'll do anything. And we're going to put it in that. And they did, and Tween 20 dissolved it overnight, and gave them the DNA they needed to go to work on it. So, I mean, right away we can see this is not human stuff. Just clearly, in every way we look, this is not human bone. All right, so what they're looking for first is the mitochondrial DNA. Remember, from mom. It's the easier of the two to recover, and it's the simplest of the two to recover. 16,000 base pairs versus 3 billion base pairs. How are we doing? Okay, break soon, and then we'll finish up. Okay, all right. We'll end after this because it's a good exciting point to end. So we got the adult female's mitochondrial DNA, and this is Jason's DNA, and this is the primer dimer, and you see these 4 right here. First attempt, bright and clear in the gel sheets. She is from haplogroup A. That means she is a typical Mesoamerican, common Mesoamerican type haplogroup A. So when they did the star child's mitochondrial DNA, same result. Jason's DNA, piece of primer dimer, these two and these two, you see they're in a different position. So what does that mean? Haplogroup C. Haplogroup C. Another typical Mesoamerican type. So what does it mean? The star child's mother is a human. The star child's mother is a human, typical haplogroup C, and there's no doubt about it. So, what does it also mean? This is not the star child's mother, and up until then we believed that it was. Because that scene that the girl found with the body in the grave and the hand over the arm, that meant that that female buried that dead body, laid down, left the hand out, laid down beside it, wrapped the hand around her arm and killed herself. She committed suicide. She died with it. So we believed that it had to be a mother, one of these mothers that had had one of these babies, and that's the star being legends of the Mesoamericans say that aliens would come down, make a woman in a village pregnant, usually a woman without a child, and she would have the child to term, and the village would have to raise it up to the age of 5 or 6 or 7 or 8, and they would come get it. So we just assumed that it was one of the star being legends at work, and this proved us wrong in 2003. It was a big shock for us. But also, he said, it looks like your star child is going to be a human because it's got a human mother. So, now we're really hanging on tether hooks, and it's a good time to take a break so you can be hanging on tether hooks, and you'll come back to see how it turns out. 20 minutes. Okay, I'm going to briefly recap where we were. So Jason and Rippon got the DNA, and they attempted to do the mitochondrial DNA of the human. Mitochondrial DNA of the human, and they found that it's from haplogroup A, haplogroup C, not mother and child. And also, very easy recovery, first time, both, which said that their DNA was very fresh, not really heavily degraded, going to be an easy recovery, no matter what, of the nuclear DNA, which is the important part, the big part, the 3 billion base pairs. So, this is the human's, female's nuclear DNA. Again, that's Jason's, and this is hers. And you see, nice and bright and clear in the gel sheet, first attempt, nuclear DNA. So they called me and they said, yeah, she's perfectly normal, not a problem, and now we're going after the star childs, and you need to brace yourself because it's probably going to be human because we know now that it has a human mother. So I said, okay. I didn't care. I just wanted the torture over with. You know, you have to understand, I was not a UFO alien person. I was a human origins and hominoids, Bigfoot and all of that person with everything you know is wrong. And that was my passion. This became a job, and then it became a responsibility that I had to see through to the end, whatever that end was, but the end couldn't come soon enough. And it still can't. To this day, I'm sitting here talking to you. It can't come soon enough. I want this all over with so I can go back to that other life and be that person, because that's who I really am. I'm not the Star Child guy, although that's all anybody knows me as, hardly. So, this was it, and so I said, okay, I don't care, just do it. Just give me the answer. It's an answer I can believe in. And so, they tried once, twice, 3, 6 times, and got nothing but primer dimer. No recovery of the Star Child's nuclear DNA with a human mother. Now, what does that tell you? What did that tell them? Dad is not human. Because if Dad was human, we would have gotten a recovery as easy and as clear as that. This person had a human mother and a human father. This person had a human mother, but not a human father. Okay? That's in 203. We know that Dad is not entirely human, because if he was, we would have had a recovery. But the problem was this. We didn't know and couldn't say how far away from human Dad was. So all science said was, it's just a whisker away. It's just a razor blade away. It's not couldn't be anything significant. It's just a variation. All you can say, all you can legitimately say about these 6 tests is that the Star Child's nuclear DNA could not be recovered. That's all you can say. It could not be recovered. There must have been some kind of exotic, bizarre degradation that allowed for an easy recovery of the mitochondrial DNA and an easy recovery of the mitochondrial and nuclear DNA of the skull found with it. But there must have been some kind of exotic, bizarre degradation for this to happen. And so we were just stuck, hamstrung again. So I said, well, to Jason and Rip, well, what can we do? What can we say? What can we do here? And they said, well, we know that there are attempts to create a system for recovering DNA that's going to bypass primers. Now, what are primers? Primers are what all of this that you've seen here were used to recover the DNA. What are primers? They're strings, man-made strings of base pairs, a few thousand base pairs long. Imagine them like biological keys searching out biological locks. Human-only primers designed to recover human DNA. And there were only a couple of dozen of them. That's all you needed. All you needed. So those biological locks, chemical locks, keys would go in looking for the locks, find them, lock up, go out, and go through the gel sheet, and there you have it. You'd have your answer. So with the Star Child, it was clear that the primer system wasn't going to work. It didn't work here 6 times, so what were they able to say in their report? It is impossible to recover this nuclear DNA with the technology of the day, which is 203, which means that the report of the Bowl lab in 1999 is absolutely and conclusively proved wrong. And so this is what I tried to tell Novella, and this is what he says, don't even bother me with the facts. Don't even bother me with the facts. That's not what I want to believe, and that's not what I want my friends to believe. Okay, so Jason and Rippon said if you'll wait 3 to 5 years, there will be a breakthrough because they're working on a machine that will recover DNA base pair by base pair. Just base pairs, one by one. And sure enough, they were right. 3 years later, 454 July 2006, 454 Life Science Technologies sequences genomes this way. Glory, hallelujah, we now have what we need. We can now for sure sequence the Star Child's genome, its entire genome, no matter how bizarre it is, base pair by base pair, we can recover it. We can find out what it is. The problem is, this technology is incredibly expensive. They started applying it immediately to the Neanderthal. They've been working on that for 4 years now, to the tune of $15 million or something like that. Or more, could be pushing toward 20. It was 15 last I heard. But other people use it to sequence the genomes of other things now. They are sequencing genomes like crazy. They build these machines as fast as they can make them, sell them for $500,000 each, and can't make them fast enough for labs that want them, because they can sequence anything, any creature out there can be sequenced. Bacteria, viruses, anything. Anything. And they do. And they have. Over the past 5 years, what has it been? 6 years? 4 years, sorry, 4 years. They have sequenced, science has sequenced thousands of species around the world. These labs, this equipment is done all over the world. And there's new equipment now, a variation of this called Illumina. It's just an exploding field, the recovering of genomes, because it tells you everything. I mean, absolutely everything. It's great technology. Great technology. But we couldn't afford it. We just couldn't afford it. And when I would try to talk people into paying for it, they would say, but can you guarantee that there will be a recovery? If I give you this couple $100,000 to get it done, as the price went steadily down, if I give you a couple $100,000, can you do it? And I would say, yeah, I'm sure we can. I'm sure, but that, there wasn't any proof, because the test, all they had to do was go on the Wikipedia or whatever and read, and it was enough to put doubt, and I couldn't convince anybody. And now it's even worse. But early this year, a geneticist contacted me, a top geneticist in the U.S. working for a big lab. The head of the lab said that a friend of his wife told her about me and the Star Child, and the wife read the books, the e-book and the book, and went through the website and convinced herself that I was legitimate, and then started working on her husband. And he thought, of course, that I was just a crank of some kind, until the wife pestered him enough to read the e-book, and then he read the book, and then he went through the website, and he contacted me and he said, I've read everything I can get my hands on about you, and I've watched the videos and everything. I believe you're onto something. I believe you're legitimate. And I can tell you that if you will send me a sample of your bone, I can tell you whether or not that nuclear DNA is there, because now there is a technique, a refined technique of shotgunning. Shotgunning, you've been around for a while. But he says, I can recover pieces of your nuclear DNA, if it's there, down to 200, 300, 400, 500 base pairs long. Doesn't need to be thousands anymore. It can be just a few hundred, and if they're there, I can get them. He said, are you willing to do that? I said, absolutely. Every time anyone has ever made me an offer to push those chips out to the middle of the table, I do it, because I want it over. I want this monkey off my back. And so I just, got that sample to him just as quick as I could. And he said, I'll let you know when I have something. A few weeks later, he contacts me and he says, well, okay, here's where it is. Sure enough, we can sequence it. And here it is. This is just one of several of these, but you see these 8 connections here. That's the start. You saw that sheet earlier. This is the experimenter, and this is the primer dimer hanging off here. But there it is. Just there it is. It's real. The Star Child's nuclear DNA is there, and it is recoverable. But he said, when I sent it to the NIH, now that you need to know what the NIH is in the States, the National